Hey you, welcome to the GreyT Talks podcast. Talks about great thinking, social skills, communication, personal development and team coaching. Because in a world that is black and white, we can all use some grey. My name is Lisette van Putten and I will be having these talks with you. I'm a social skills teacher and coach and I will be sharing my thoughts, knowledge and practical tips to create your own greatness. So stay tuned and enjoy this brand new episode. My first book review. Exciting. Yes, welcome to episode 4 of the GreyT Talks podcast. And this talk is going to be about this book. You are already enough being mentally healthy in a crazy world. It's in Dutch for now. I hope they're going to translate it. It's written by Thijs Launspach. Big shout out to him because I think he did a great job in explaining what is needed to become mentally healthy and to stay mentally healthy in this world that we're currently living in. I'm gonna put this book away because otherwise I'll be waving it around all the time this entire episode. So it's there. I am cold, but I have my blanket. I have my notes. So I think I'm ready to talk to you about this book. It's not a self-help book. I wanted to state that it's not written as a self-help book. It does have some tips and tricks, but it's written to actually understand mental health and becoming mentally healthy and staying mentally healthy, to actually understand that better and to like pick and choose the things that you think you actually need. So I think this book actually resonates really well with me because, as does the writer, I am all for transparency and sharing my own experiences with you as well. And that is what he did too. He wrote his own experiences, and that's also how he explained mental health and some things that he did, some things that you can do. So there are some tips and tricks, but I think, yeah, that is something that is inevitable when you talk about becoming mentally healthy in this world. So what is going on in this episode? It's going to be slightly different from the other episodes because, of course, it's a book review, and I am going to share all the things that I have read that I think are really important to know. And I want to talk to you about that. So some of the things that I am sharing, of course, are the words of the writer of the book. So yeah, just to state that I am paraphrasing everything. So first of all, this book is about how to be mentally healthy in a crazy world. And this crazy world is the world that we are currently living in, which is rapidly changing into something that is unknown and unfamiliar for us. It's something that we don't know what it's going to look like. And I think we already, like nowadays, sometimes don't really understand the world. So as it is changing and it's sort of moving forward, we are trying to catch up as well. And to actually live in this world, what is expected of us is that we are successful and happy all the time. And mind you, we're not. So that is actually messing us up quite a bit, I think. And it's especially the part like all the time. And it feels as if we are obligated to excel in life. And I mean, achieving happiness, achieving success, I think is something that is a great focus to have. And of course, we do want to. But the fact that we think that we want that is also manufactured by this world that we are living in. And that will become clear throughout this episode. But this way, when you are, you feel like you're obligated to excel in life, you are never enough. And that is definitely something I can relate to. You can check episode 3. It's all about perfectionism. So this world that we are currently living in actually creates more perfectionists, because you need to be happy and you need to be successful and to really excel in life. And this world actually also wants us to do that all by ourselves. So the focus is on me, myself, and I. It's very individualistic. You are alone in this quest to become a happy person, which can be very lonely. Because if you think that you need to do that all by yourself and you don't achieve it, yeah, it can be a very lonely process. So there's not a lot of room left for us and to feel connected to others, because we are still focusing, we are solely focusing on ourselves. Like, we do that a lot. And what's written in the book that we actually need is to feel that connection again. Because in this world, we are sort of like consumers. Yeah, we are consumers, not sort of. We are consumers because we're consuming a lot, like materialistic things, but also unmaterialistic things, ideas. So we are consuming all of that, which makes us like less human, and we get out of touch. We are not connecting with people and our surroundings anymore. So what it is that we need is to become less of a consumer, to become more human, and to actually connect more with ourselves, connect with the our goals, but like the goals that we truly set for ourselves, are that that are the goals that we really want, and not that we think that we need to achieve those things because society wants us to, and to connect more with our surroundings, with our people and our community. So that is definitely something that we need, because in this world there's this unachievable, idealistic picture of what life should look like, and these expectations that are created, and it's like this whole factory of people that are trying to become as happy as possible. um and I said factory. I think that is the equivalent of how dehumanizing this world actually makes us as well. Um, yeah. And one of the things that I think is really well written in this book is that it's like we should normalize that it's okay to not be happy, because the way we see being um, being unhappy is that it is a problem, and if you have a problem, it should be solved straight away. And when I read that, I thought, this is exactly what I believe is wrong when it comes to mental health, when it comes to personal development, when it comes to social skills and communication skills as well, because we are so focused on ourselves. So connecting is like becoming difficult, which has to do with communication, social skills. Um, and we are we are focusing on us, but we don't really know who we are as a person, because we aim to be as happy as possible and we focus on our positive feelings and our positive emotions. But it's not okay or normal to feel mad, sad, disappointed, just, I don't know, fucked up for some time. And this book tells you that that is all okay. And I think that's a great message, because it's really okay to sometimes just not feel okay, not be okay. That is human. It's normal Like, we cannot be happy all the time. It's not just not possible. Um, and of course, it's a great feeling to be happy, but I think we also should accept our negative feelings and our negative emotions and to also be okay with that and with them because they're part of who we are. So we shouldn't reject them or just shove them aside. Yeah, so I think that's a great message that is also written in this book. So this book says that being mentally healthy is actually being able to keep up with yourself and keep yourself together and sit with yourself and accept yourself as the person that you are. But what's the problem is that we lost ourselves because we lost ourselves in this ideal image on what life should look like. And it's like forced in a way of how success, like when you are successful, and the ideal love and the ideal relationship that you should have, and how you should feel personally and be happy all the time and satisfied, and how you actually should engage with all these people and act socially. It's all this ideal, and of course beauty, this ideal image on how that all should look in life. And I'm going to do another episode about social expectations as well. So that sort of fits into this part from this book as well, on how this ideal image on what your life should look like can make you feel really lost as well, because if you're not achieving that because you're not, maybe not aiming for it, but you feel like you should aim for it because that is what life looks like and what life expects and what society expects and what maybe your surroundings, your family, your friends also expect from you, then you feel like you're not enough. So another episode is going to be all about that. So there are two quotes from this book that I want to share with you. One says, "Don't be afraid of perfection because you won't be able to achieve it," which I think, well, resonates with the previous episode as well, and definitely resonates with how I see perfection and perfectionism, and what can be really helpful to deal with perfectionism, to really use this quote and to think about this quote, like, don't be afraid of perfection because you won't be able to achieve it. And what happens with perfectionists is that because we're kind of afraid of it, we want to achieve it more and more and more. Because we're like, we're not going to, it's not good enough. So we need to be better and better and better and better. And sometimes um, you're just afraid of perfection, and it makes you numb and you don't aim for it because it's like, whoa, I'm not going to be able to. So don't be afraid of perfection because you won't be able to achieve it. One of the quotes I think is really nice. And the other one is, if you only look at what you don't have or you aren't yet, but if you only look at what you don't have or what you aren't, then that's like the quickest way to become really unhappy with what you actually are. Because if you're focusing on what you're lacking, then the focus is on the negative part, like something that you're missing or that you think that you're missing because it's something that you think that you need to become better or become whole or something. And you're not really focusing on what it is that you already have. So you're actually really like becoming even more and more unhappy. So I think that is also something to definitely think about. So one of the things that I think is really well explained, I grabbed the book again. I just wanted to show it to you again, so that's why I have. Ooh, I was afraid that was gonna happen, so I'm gonna put it away again. But this way you still know that I'm talking about this book. um, but one thing that is explained really well is that like this whole social comparison that is happening and that's going on is like it's constant, it's automatic, and it's random, and it's all day, it's 24/7 because we are on social media, as are you right now being able to listen to this talk. But with social media, the group that we are comparing ourselves with is really, really big and is becoming bigger um, every day. And we are comparing ourselves with people that we don't know that are actually a styled brand because we don't know them because they live on the other side of the world and it's just their Instagram account that we have or their TikTok or whatever. And the only thing that we know and that we see is the things that they post. So it's a styled image, a brand that they created, a personal brand. So we're comparing ourselves with that, and trying to like achieve things based on the image that is created on social media. So what um, what happens then is that we are comparing, and we are comparing ourselves with this idealistic image. So our self esteem is lowering, and it becomes a vicious circle because when our self esteem is low, we actually start checking things more, which makes us like compare ourselves more with people, which makes our self esteem. So it's like spiraling down when we actually use a lot of social media. I don't know about you, but I do use a lot of social media. I am on social media a lot. I am aware of this process, and still I am comparing myself to certain videos that I see, certain images that I see. So it is definitely happening, and I'm trying to cut back on my social media use. It is pretty hard, so if you have any tips, let me know. Um, because yeah, it's not very helpful. And I think it's really important to be able to actually sit with yourself and be critical about what it is that those unrealistic images and those ideal pictures that actually do for you, mean what they mean to you, and what it is that um yeah, that is happening. So if you are aware of it, of the process that you do that and that you do compare, like what do you take from it, and um what should you let go, and how should you actually deal with that? I think those are important and valid questions to be able to be aware of the social and societal pressure of those expectations that you think um, are there. Yeah. And that's also well put in this quote: you can do anything, but you cannot do everything, especially not at once. So you cannot be able to do everything. You can shoot for the moon, aim for the moon, and the sky is the limit. You can do anything that you want, but you cannot do everything all at once. And what this world expects from us is that we actually do. And yeah, I think it's valid to think about that. And again, it, when I wrote my notes, I noticed that it is a message that is throughout the entire book, that uh, when you focus on what you don't have yet, and when you are like aiming to become even happier, it actually means that you focus on becoming unhappy, because you're constantly focusing on what it is that you don't have yet. um so yeah, the fast track to becoming unhappy is to like force happiness out of whatever it is that you feel like you need to achieve to become happy. Because he writes a recipe on how to actually be unhappy is when you chase those goals and those expectations that are set by other people and by society. So those societal expectations that I'm going to do in another episode. But the recipe to actually be happy is to accept those imperfections. So accept that you are not perfect. And when you accept that, you can actually embrace all the parts of yourself, and you will definitely be a lot happier. So again, being unhappy is not a problem, and is also not a problem that has to be solved straight away. Although we are trained to think that if there's a problem, it needs to be solved. But I think it's a very interesting idea to look at a problem as being a puzzle, and just check out that puzzle with a lot of curiosity and acceptance and self-love, to just see what it reveals and what you can actually learn about yourself. And I mean, positivity, positive feelings, positive emotions, that's that's the aim. That's the standard. That's normal. And we haven't normalized negative emotions. We reject it, we shove it away. We don't accept them because they are not helping us to become happy. And it's written really well. I think it's because the writer used his own journey as well, to explain these things, because it's written. I read a lot of patience in explaining how it actually works. Even the repetition of like, uh, you should be okay with your negative emotions and negative feelings, and it's okay to not be happy all the time. There's a lot of patience in explaining all of that. And one of the things that I got directly out of the book, is that because we live in this world where we think that if we have a problem, we should fix it straight away, and we have all these 10 steps and becoming better in 5 weeks, and all those promises of like self-help things, I am here telling you that I promise you and myself that I will not pretend that I have the perfect solution, that I have the um, shortcut to happiness, that I have the quick fix to become the best version of yourself. I promise you that I will never pretend that, and will never use that as a marketing strategy, or just a way to promote my business, because I don't want to I don't indulge that that marketing vibe that is all over social media. So I should not be a sellout and do it myself. Practice what you preach. Um, and another thing that I will promise you, I pledge to you, I solemnly swear, um, that I will share just my ideas, my thoughts, my experiences, the books that I read. I'll just share what I think of it, and how I perceive things. And I hope that it will inspire you, and it will teach you, and it will help you to understand yourself better, and you can take from it that you need in your own journey. So I thought it was really an eye opener that I read that in this book, saying that we are so pushed into the idea that we need to fix all of our problems, and we had to have fixed them yesterday. But if you didn't fix them yet, there are a lot of ads and a lot of people and a lot of amazing miracle stories, that help us convince that we are just 3 steps away to become that perfect version of ourselves. And that is something that I don't want to be a part of. So hereby, I promise you, I won't do that. So the book states that the more you focus on happiness, the unhappier you get. And that happiness is just a side effect of a meaningful life. So if you were to chase happiness, it will escape. Just like time. I mean, if you are chasing, you cannot chase time. You have to spend time. But if you're focusing on like not having enough time or needing more time, or like it's not creating more time. With happiness, if you are focusing on becoming happy, you become less happy. If you focus on having a meaningful life, doing like fulfilling your purpose, doing the things that you love doing, um, contributing to a greater good, um, that is actually creating more happiness. So it should be like well known by everyone that being unhappy every now and then is just normal and it's okay, and it can be actually really helpful in becoming happier than you were before. And to actually create that meaningful life, it is written that we need to be able to know who we are and to give ourselves what we need, like on a structural daily base, like what our mind needs, what our body needs, and to actually feed our personal development in self-love, acceptance, to feed our self-esteem by becoming more self-aware. So to actually dig a little deeper, becoming aware of who you are by knowing why we think certain ways, and maybe train that, become be able to think differently, but also know and understand why we are feeling certain things, why we are acting in a certain way. So really becoming aware of who we are as a person. And there are many ways, methods, and theories on how to do that. One of the paragraphs that stood out to me most states that imperfect is default. We all have our imperfections because we're all broken, we're all glued back together. There are all these things, but it makes it really hard to live in a world that expects perfection. So that way, you're always not good enough. And when you focus on those imperfections, it creates like it's really difficult to maintain this perfect image, and mistakes and imperfections and like failures, they make us human. And what stated like in the beginning of the book, and what I also already said in this episode, like in the beginning of the episode, is that we should aim to become less of a consumer and more human. So to become more human, one of the things is to accept our imperfections. And those imperfections are just not accepted by this world, by this society that created this perfect image on what a happy life should look like and what a happy person should look like. And that's also part of the problem, that we emphasize on positivity and happiness all the time, and that negative emotions and negative feelings aren't okay to have, which creates also this circle of we're having a certain emotion, like a negative feeling, which we think we aren't allowed or we shouldn't have. So we get like we criticize ourselves and we have another emotion about that certain emotion. So it's like a secondary, it's explained as this secondary emotion that we have, because we might be feel sad about something, but then we become mad that we feel sad about that. And because this world is so afraid of these negative emotions, these negative feelings, we are not trained and taught how to process them. So we have a hard time identifying them and processing them, because we are trained to actually reject them and just ignore them. So, what is written that is really important to become mentally healthy and stay mentally healthy is being able um, to know our emotions, to be able to label them, to give words to them, whether they are positive or negative. So, both are really important. And know what it is that you need to be able to process them, to accept them as part of yourself and not reject them, not ignore them, not think of them as something that is wrong. It's normal to have them, and they are also a guide in how to make your way through life. Not only your positive emotions, but also your negative emotions and feelings are really helping you with that, and to actually know yourself a lot better. Because if you are able to um, give words and give meaning to certain feelings that you have, you know that that is something that is part of yourself, and you react in a certain way. You Something happens, like a certain situation makes you feel a certain way, so it helps you to get to know yourself a lot better. So I could go on and on and on about the things that are written in this book that I think are really important for you to know, but I already skipped over a few of my notes because I thought we're not gonna have enough time, or this is gonna be a really, really long episode. And we talked about a lot, so I just want to leave it here and summarize it as, like, I don't know, read the book. It's a great book. Um, Summarizing this episode, I'd say this book teaches you about mental health, so it helps you understand how mental health works, how to become mentally healthy, and how to stay mentally healthy in this crazy world, in which we are not allowed to be unhappy, because that's a problem, and a problem should be fixed. And negative feelings and emotions aren't okay. But what the book teaches us is that it's okay to be unhappy, to feel sad, feel mad, be disappointed, feel weird and fucked up sometimes, because it's part of life. And being able to normalize that and to put that into words, it helps you to accept yourself and to learn more about yourself, to become more self aware. And in that journey, um, it makes it easier to know what you need to um, to guide yourself in staying mentally healthy. Because when we are able to know who we are, the way we think, how we feel, and why we act the way we act, and to accept ourselves in that version of ourselves, we are able to help ourselves grow, um, find our motivation and our purpose, to set goals that we actually really want and is not set by others or by society. And we get to question the expectations that we think people have and how we feel about that. And that is the way that we are able to create a meaningful life. So, also in this episode, I'm going to share a Grey trigger and a Grey tip. My Grey trigger is about the systemic solutions that are written in this book, because I think it's beautifully written and put into words that being able to stay mentally healthy in this crazy world can is really hard to do it by yourself. Um, and of course, you can create a community. You can create, like, you can surround yourself with people that that guide you, that can help you, that can support you with that. But the systems in place, like politics, work, and education, are major players when it comes to mental health. And one of my great triggers that I think is well put in the book as well is education. And it saddens me and it's very disappointing to know that these topics that are read about in this book and that are really important are not taught in school. And I know that there is like more of a development going on already within school, um, but I think it should be a development that should happen really fast because I think it's really important. I notice it in my work because I work in education, not primary, not primary school, not high school, but higher education, and it's really important. I have a lot of projects that are about mental health, about student well-being, about um, realizing as much as possible to guide students into their studies, but also their personal journey. And I think those projects and the work that I do are really important, and I think it's beautiful. But I think it is something that should be in place everywhere in every school, not only higher education, but also in high school and also in primary school. I think it's not weird to teach kids how to express themselves, what feelings they are having, how to reflect on the way you act, what is happening, how to actually communicate that to others, how to communicate with others, to be social. And I think, I mean, I noticed the way that I'm talking about this. It is really a great trigger because I think it's really important. My great tip would be to read the book, to get like my great tip for the writer or the publisher would be to actually translate this into English and to make sure that this book is within every educational program there is. I think it's really important um, to understand mental health. I think this book is really helpful to get there, and I think it's a great starting point on like coaching students to become more mentally healthy and to become aware of what it is that they need. I am waving the book around. It only happened 3 times in this episode. So again, great tip: read the book. Um, great tip for the writer: translate it and make sure it's in every educational program. Have your kids read it, have your parents read it, have your friends read it. Um, yeah, it's a great book. Thank you for listening to this episode of Great Talks. Please let me know what you think, ask me anything, and spread greatness by sharing these talks with everyone you think needs a little bit more grey. Don't forget to be great until our next Great Talk.